All right. And so one more point I have to give you on why dating men has been so hard is that you're projecting too much negativity. All right. So first, let me say, I understand. I understand that it's hard to have a positive outlook when you are exposed to so many negative things, maybe your own negative experiences, maybe what you're hearing from other people, what you're seeing on the internet. All these different things shape your perception and can create these negative thoughts that now, whether you realize it or not, you're going to project on the men that you meet. But let me give you some insight real quick. Things are not always what they seem, and you're not always getting the full story. So when it comes to the internet, I think we all know the internet for most people is a highlight reel. You're not going to get the truths. You're not going to get all the dirty stuff. But even when you do get the dirty, bad stuff, you're not getting the other side of it. You don't get the full context of what's going on, what brought about some of these things. So understand there are very incomplete stories on the internet. So we have to be careful with what we take from that to shape our perception of dating and relationships, as well as just very inaccurate information being given. All right, as far as just advice and what the topics that people are talking about on different shows or whatever, it's not complete in its context. So you got to be very careful with that. When it comes to what you're hearing from friends and family, that also tends to be very incomplete stories. One thing I had a revelation about, I've always said that, listen, when you speak to women, you got to understand that they may not always, and not maliciously, but they may not always give you the full story. And if you're thinking, oh, that's crazy or that's wrong for me to say that about women, consider this. Have you ever had a conflict with a woman? And let's just say you have a conflict with this woman and you guys have a mutual friend. And you tell your story to the mutual friend and she tells her story. And when you heard her side of the story, was it the complete story? Like, did she really give all the details, right? There's a very good chance, no, there was pieces missing and you had to fill in the blanks, because it's natural where people will give the side that's more favorable to them or keeps them in a more favorable light. But if they but they don't give everything that then might show that they're at fault too. Okay? So you got to be careful with listening to the stories. And yes, even men do this, but I've seen where men do it in a different way in many cases. All right. They might give the stories where they might be more forthcoming about what they did wrong, but they may not see it as wrong. So they'll say, well, yeah, I told her she was this, but what's wrong with that? That's the disconnect they have. But where they do leave out information is where it makes them look weak or where they would lose respect. So like, quick story, and we'll get back to the point. I remember one guy where, he's telling me these women and they're acting stupid and all these different things or whatever. But what he didn't tell me was, and I heard it from one of the women, he was stalking them. Not all of them. There was one time where he got very obsessed. He didn't do anything crazier than that, so I don't want you to think that. But he lost sight of things and he got caught. So it's like, he didn't tell me that part because he knows that part would not make him look good. All right. So a lot of people be leaving out details to stories, and you got to be careful and know how to, if you're going to take that and use that to shape your perceptions, you got to be mindful of, am I getting all the information, or how I can ask the right questions to get a more fuller picture. But all that to say, you got to guard yourself around all those things. Now, the one thing that you know the full story of that's going to impact your perceptions are your own personal experiences. But what I want to say to that is, we've got to learn to leave that experience with that specific individual and not take that experience and project it to the whole group of individuals that they look like. All right. So we can't just have a bad experience with a man and then say, well, all men are like this. That's not healthy and it's not good. And when you start to do that, you start to negatively impact your dating experience. You got to give each individual their own clean slate. Let them show you who they are. So you come in with an open mind. You can become, you can understand the potential pitfalls and be aware of it, but do not project it onto that person. Give them their opportunity to show you who they are and roll with that. And then if there's something special, build on that rather than undermine it with negative things that you've heard, seen, or previously experienced with other people. Hey, thank you for watching this video. Be sure to check this one out right here, and I'll see you there. So I know how many of you are feeling. You feel like dating sucks. And I understand. and I hope you don't feel that way, but I know many of you feel that way, okay? I know it feels